Yo, guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Marijuana SA Weekly. And today the scam has been exposed.
The pyramid is burning.
The pyramid has fallen, and we thought we would just give a little of our input on what's been going down at Juicy Fields. And yeah, it's not a thorough investigation. We just sort of, a lot of this is what's happening is all hearsay. And there's obviously the big scandal of the Durban Expo going on right now, and that they took money from illicit activities and pyramids, and that they knew about it or didn't know about it. So it's quite scandalous, quite a lot of fun. But yeah, Dean, I mean, give us the story sort of in brief for those that don't know about Juicy.
So we first saw it was at the Sandton Cannabis Convention, which was last year. As you walk in, massive branding everywhere, Juicy Fields. First time I'd heard of it. What is it? So obviously we went to go and investigate ourselves. Awesome stand, lots of giveaways, lots of money being flashed around. Obviously looked like they were in the money maker, like they had the $1 billion cannabis idea. And then you start to look at the pitch, and they had an online portal. Basically, they were saying that they tied together growers and people who want to invest, and you can invest in a plant, and the plant then will be grown by selected growers. And then at the end of the day, you'll be paid profits according to your plant that they grew or a contracted plant. Everything done via cryptocurrency, I think, and also I think European bank transfer if you were based on that side. And major headline sponsor of I think the Mexico Cannabis Expo, Cape Town Cannabis Expo, the Sandton Cannabis Expo. And at that point, obviously, you know, when we looked at it for the first time, we were very excited by it. So we went and had a little look online, and I Googled deeper and deeper, and actually nearly pitched it to our investment club. I was like, this looks like a cool idea. Let me do some final research before, you know, any money goes towards it. And then even back then, I can't remember exactly. I think it was November last year. We were up in Sandton. But even back then, there was articles, overseas articles saying, you know, too good to be true, struggling to get my money out. You go check the Google reviews of the business. Can't get my money out. So this was November, and the Cannabis Expo in Cape Town was in March, and there they were headline sponsor once again. You know, so and the Durban Expo was also advertising them as the headline sponsor up until last week. An emailer came in from Juicy Fields themselves saying, no more advertising for Juicy Fields. Staff is on strike. No, you may not advertise anymore. If you need your money back, you must now email this email address with a video of yourself. The video must have you showing your ID card in it, and multiple reasons. But a long story short, generally, if something's too good to be true, or if you hear the word multi-level marketing.
I mean, they didn't say multi-level marketing. I mean, they had a fancy spiel, you know, it was crypto, blockchain, your plants are on the blockchain. Though. It was, yeah. I mean, you didn't have to recruit anyone. You just had to sort of pay, and then it was sort of like, you know, like in the investment club, we've there's this thing where in livestock wealth where you can buy a cow. It's like kind of like that, except you just didn't buy anything. You just gave them money, and then there was no like tangible asset on the other side.
But they were saying there was a ganja plant. They were saying there was one plant that you could buy as that short-term investment.
Was there? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, you could never see it. Like, maybe if you could like log on and I mean, livestock wealth was selling a garden, and you could log on via CCTV camera and like watch your garden for that specific investment. You know? Yeah, exactly. I mean, we got a photo of our cow at one time, Betsy.
You know, it's quite fascinating, and I mean, so anyway, okay, let's think about the implications now for the industry, because I mean, I was at the German Cannabis Expo recently, and there was Juicy Fields was allegedly a German company, and there was no one to be seen there representing or thingy. So, and now when you also mentioned Mexico, South Africa, I think they were maybe trying to prey on third world third world sort of economies, maybe less.
Yeah, and I personally feel that is predatory, firstly, and like secondarily, it's terrible for our industry. We're already having slow pace within our industry. So to see big companies coming in and sponsoring and helping grow events is awesome. But at the same time, if you're advertising on behalf of well, for lack of a better word, pyramid scheme, then you are
alleged pyramid scheme.
Alleged pyramid. Alleged. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, pretty convinced. So.
Yeah, but I've also seen loads of. For what sparked this conversation was, we're on the Facebook groups in South Africa, and there's people saying, like, I've invested money. How do I get my money out? Like, I can't get my money out. Loads of people liking it, saying following. So now you've got people who maybe, trusted in.
It was about $1,000. It was like $50 or $1,000, and I think
it was like $20K you had to invest to get the upper echelon, and the returns look good. It's a company that's being advertised heavily within South Africa. You would think, okay, cool, this is legitimate, and now all of a sudden it is not legitimate, and you are now caught in the red. You can't get your money out.
Wait, yeah, you're right. Because of I was just thinking, they were using probably the money from, obviously they were using the money from the new signups to pay because I was just thinking about it. I remember it was 3 years, so you invest that 20,000, and it's 3 years, and then in the fourth year is basically all profit. So it's and I think 100% of your money in sort of 4 years.
Your money's locked in as well until that later stage, or until certain things. So classic marketing scheme of multi-levels. You're getting new signups in. The new signups is paying for all your fancy plane trips and parties and dinners that you're hosting. Advertising. I mean, we saw the team at the Joburg Santon Expo at that fancy restaurant, all partying it up. I don't know if you remember that one night. So, but like this is just our own takes of what. But for me, it really pisses me off about what's happened in the South African industry, because we already are seemingly going through a fat slump. And I think this is the nail in the coffin for them and within South Africa, I would be sure. But also, they probably made loads of money from it and are going to now pull some dodgy runners. Whereas it's the people in South Africa who trusted in the enterprises advertising them to do the research and to come forth with a positive offering, and unfortunately that hasn't been the case. So now people who trusted in them and their fancy pictures at the entrance with their massive stalls looking like a sure way to get involved in the industry, those are the people that are now suffering. And South Africa is already poor. All of us are struggling within this country, or most of us, and now all of a sudden you thought you could get involved in the industry. You've been wanting to invest. You've been wanting to put your money somewhere to be a part of this cannabis boom. And now all of a sudden you have nothing to show for it, or minus 20, so 40, 60.
So what do you rate? You rate the Cannabis expos? I mean, obviously I highly doubt they knew that there was evidence base of a pyramid scheme. I mean, you kind of don't. I mean, we were all there. No, we weren't throwing, walking around with pickets in the air saying this is a pyramid scheme, or this is a scam, or this is they're going to run with your money. Like because you can't. I suppose it seemed so developed and so legit. Yeah, I mean, we had our hunches, and you would choose not to invest in something that's too good to be true. But there's no you can't prove these things are wrong.
I mean, I right up until the investment club meeting prepared to pitch it as an investment, and then like an hour or two before the meeting, I'd put in a couple hours research. I then started to delve further, and then I was like, hey, maybe it's not the best one. So then I still pitched it, but I kind of pitched it as like this is a too good to be true investment over this is an investment we should put our money in. Yeah. But you don't know for sure. You're like, okay, they seem so legitimate. They've got the portal, they've got these farmers on board.
Website. Yeah,
it looked amazing. Like as a business offering, if it wasn't negative, it could have been highly positive. Like it seemed like something that you could really. It seemed like something really clever, but at the end of the day,
yeah.
who made money out of it? Not the people who invested.
To be
Apparently.
fair, I don't blame the expo for taking the money. It's such a difficult one to say, but I can kind of understand from the expo's point of view. I mean, it wasn't a one hit expo. I think they did like 4 or 5, and like
They
between
obviously
the
had big
first one,
deals.
they must
you
have
know.
been paying out some of the returns. I
People
guess
were getting paid out though, because I
Yeah.
looked online and the reviews were kind of like, we're struggling to get our money. And then some people were like, the money's taking long, but money was still coming out.
Yeah. So
difficultly. And then
yeah.
all of a sudden, when the staff goes on strike, now all of a sudden, no one has access to money. So like as the expo, were the red flags there potentially, but if you're getting presented probably with a massive marketing strategy, this is our plan, this is what we can do, this is the money we're bringing to the table, they must be like, okay, cool, this is legitimate, and now they're taking money from, or who knows if they're taking money, we don't know if they took money, they got a headline sponsor, and that headline sponsor is advertising heavily at the expo, interviewing people, making video content, doing all the right things. As a brand, you're like, okay, cool, this is an amazing partner to work with.
Yeah.
And, if they had continued to grow, it probably would have grown more and more and more. Maybe the next expo would have been stadium level stuff, whereas now all of a sudden it's, I think that the expo itself is also in a position now where they've probably lost their big sponsor, or their
they must have surely
partner.
paid for this expo already. Probably Joburg's coming up later in the year, which they probably paid for as well. So maybe the expos, that could be a questionable thing. Does the expo give back money or donate that money that they got paid for Joburg? We must find out.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to hear kind of the landscape there. But also now the Durban Expo must go forwards without probably reprinting banners, and the marketing's probably taken a huge knock.
I'd love to find out what's going on there. Are they scratching out all the, not giving out, like the bags are probably all branded Juicy Fields.
I have a Juicy Field bags like lying around here somewhere, I quite like the logo. And they need to hand sanitize their hands now, maybe of the
they should be using a bit more hand sanitizer. So guys, I think in closing, I mean, it's as Dean mentioned it, always be cautious of what's too good to be true. Make sure just to check your facts, do a bit of research on these things. We are in what you call a fledgling cannabis market, one that is maybe not as booming as the rest of the world, actually quite a struggling market at the moment. And there's going to be opportunity seekers in the, wrongdoers in the space. They're going to try to take advantage of the hype, because there's a lot of hype in the industry, but not a lot of experience, not a lot of history, not a lot of sort of cross checks, people that are in the position to oversee these things, regulations. So yeah, it's all up in the air at the moment. So as always, be careful, be cautious, be safe, and until next week. Peace, guys.